Tonight I thought I'd tell you a story, and since tea parties are so much in vogue in the political world, I'd tell you a story about a tea party. But this is not a tea party in the political world of today. This is a tea party that goes back in the history of North Carolina, even before North Carolina was a state, but when it was a colony. The story I want to tell you about comes from the first book I ever wrote. This is 15 years old. It's still in print, and you can buy it at Barnes & Noble or Amazon. The story of the backroads of North Carolina's Upper Coast. The story I want to tell you about comes from Edenton. Has anybody in this audience been to Edenton, North Carolina? Okay. Up in the Albemarle, a lovely little town, dates back before North Carolina was a state. It was the colonial capital of North Carolina. And in those days, while North Carolina was still a colony, the ladies there in Edenton, it was a very sophisticated town. The ladies had tea parties to celebrate often, and of course, it being the colonial capital, the colonial governor was there, who was very much closely allied to King George III of Great Britain. And those ladies in Edenton often had tea parties, and since they were still British subjects here in America, they often poured a cup of tea. It was said to have been made often a red color of the finest imported tea from Great Britain. And it was sort of a red color, as you can see, because Great Britain, the uniforms of those soldiers from Great Britain, they had red uniforms. By 1774, however, these ladies in Edenton, in the fall of 1774, there was much unrest in the North Carolina colony because of taxation without representation, because of British import duties upon the tea that they drank. So there was a lady by the name of Penelope Barker who lived in Edenton. She associated with 50 other ladies in Edenton, and they met in the home of Mrs. Elizabeth King on October 25, 1774. And to protest Great Britain's import duties on tea, on the taxation without representation, and in support of the growing independence movement in America, those ladies had a tea party and swore to drink no more imported tea from Great Britain. They had a concoction made out of blueberries. And so on that day, they poured from their teapot a tea that was blue in support of the American colonies. American soldiers by that time were wearing blue uniforms that would be in the Continental Army. Another year went by. Let's bring it home to Charlotte, where we're at tonight, where some fiery Presbyterian elders and ministers met, and right in the heart of Charlotte. And there they voted and signed the Mecklenburg Declaration of Independence, making Mecklenburg County citizens the first to declare their independence from Great Britain. Following up on that tea party, which I might add is the first organized instance of political activity of American women ever in recorded history. That takes us then to the following year in July of 1776, when all 13 American colonies united and decided that they wanted to be one country. The war of words then became a war of bullets. And then suddenly, those red-coated soldiers began to fight those blue-jacketed American soldiers in the Continental Army who wore blue and buff uniforms. And in that tempest that was in a teapot, it suddenly grew into a tempest between soldiers fighting. And a wave of that teapot suddenly showed the red-coated British soldiers, the blue-coated American soldiers embroiled in a great battle. Let's bring it home then to Charlotte. September 1780. When the Battle of Charlotte was fought, Lord Cornwallis and those red-coated soldiers invaded North Carolina, and they had a waiting party when they came to the crossroads at Trade and Tryon under General William Davie and Captain Joseph Graham. And the streets of Charlotte literally flowed red with American blood as we gave Cornwallis and those British soldiers our very rude greeting. In fact, when Cornwallis decided to move back to South Carolina, he said Charlotte was an agreeable place, but it was a damned hornet's nest. If you see any officer from the Charlotte-Mecklenburg Police Department today, you will see that hornet's nest on their insignia. That battle in Charlotte was one of red blood poured out for the American cause. As those blue-coated soldiers, the blue representing the perseverance and the endurance of the American cause against the most professional army in the world, it mingled and mingled. And you know what? A year later, in October 1781, at Yorktown, Pennsylvania, after the Battle of Charlotte, where Charles Cornwallis, who left Charlotte, calling it a damned hornet's nest, offered the sword of surrender to the American army, and thus ended the American Revolution in favor of liberty and perseverance that we toast today. That white color on the American flag with those blue and red. So I toast those ladies of Edenton tonight. I toast those brave men and women of Charlotte-Mecklenburg, and that the liberty they gave us all. Thank you very much.